Let's take a look at the project properties in Viewlet Builder 7. Once you create, edit, and save your file, the next thing you want to check out are the project property settings that will be used for your published file. Select Project, then Project Properties. In the Viewlet Profile section, any information that you input will be embedded into your Viewlet. For example, let's give this Viewlet a title. We'll call it Carbonize Your Content with Viewlets. This title information will be displayed in the browser's title bar on playback. If we don't include any information in the title field, the source file name will display. So for more professional results, at a minimum, include a title. Then of course you can include other information, including authoring and company information. If your Viewlet has audio clips or let's say voice narration or any kind of sound, you can determine the sound quality that will be used for the published files. High quality works well for most Viewlets, especially those with voice narration. Now, if you have a Viewlet that has sound but want to publish without sound, you can also use the option to strip out all sounds. And what will happen is your source file will keep the sound in it, so nothing will be affected in the source file. However, when the Viewlet is published, it will be published without sound. So you can go through these and choose whatever sound quality options work for you. Image quality, the same thing. Choose a setting for the image quality that will be used for your published file. Any image quality settings chosen here will not affect your source file. And again, high quality works well for most Viewlet projects. In the timing section, you might want to go ahead and check out the minimum message duration. This will affect the minimum amount of time a balloon or note will be displayed on playback. So let's say your Viewlet has some balloons that say just click OK, and they will only display for 1 second. Well, that is not enough time for the viewer to be able to go ahead and read it, and the balloon may just flash by and they may think that something's wrong with the Viewlet, or they may think they've missed something. So to avoid this, set your minimum message duration to something like 2.5 seconds. And again, while you're working in your project, you can go through all of these other options as well for your published settings. In the Viewlet options, you can opt to add a table of contents to the skin, display one. Also, you can select some player bar options. Here we have it selected to display a player bar. Maybe we want to also go ahead and enable keyboard navigation, have the viewer be able to use keyboard shortcuts for navigating through the Viewlet. Now, when would there be a time you might not have a player bar? Well, if you have a quiz Viewlet, you might want to force the viewer to go slide by slide through the Viewlet. In that case, you may opt to deselect the player bar. But for this example, we're going to go ahead and keep this selected. And again, you want to go through the various options here when setting up your Viewlet options. In the scoring options screen, you can choose options if you have quizzing or scored slides in your project. Let's say, for example, you have content that needs to be meeting SCORM compliancy standards. Viewlet Builder does have the ability to create or publish out SCORM compliant files as well as AICC and so on. If you're going to do this, one of the things you might want to consider for SCORM compliant files, if you have quiz slides, is add a pass-fail threshold. So we could do that right here. This will be added to the manifest in the published files so that when your published files are then imported into your learning management system, the learning management system will automatically pick up this pass-fail threshold ratio from the manifest automatically, so you don't have to manually input it. For this example, however, we're going to go ahead and deselect this. However, we do have quiz slides on this particular or in this particular Viewlet, so we'll display a score panel on the last slide of the Viewlet. The language section allows you to localize your Viewlet, so you can check out all of these options as well as changing the language for localization and so on. And you have the ability also to add a soundtrack to your Viewlet. You can open up the sound dialog window and you can record a soundtrack, or you can load a file. If your soundtrack playback time is less than the playback time for your Viewlet, you can opt to loop it when it goes through playing, and then it'll play over and over again until the Viewlet's done. And you can also opt to have your soundtrack pause during interactive zones and question slides to avoid distracting the viewer. And you also have the ability to adjust the playback volume of the soundtrack as well right here in this section. In the Flash section, you see various options as well. So at a minimum, maybe you want to reduce the Flash context menus, that just in case the viewer right clicks, they'll have fewer options on that menu, as well as apply a rapid fading effects on the balloons and notes so that they fade in and out to have more visual punch to your viewlets. And I also recommend to have a standard preloader setting for no matter what viewlet you have. Have this set as a standard for all of your projects, no matter how big or small. So for example, we want it to display a waiting animation while the viewlet is streaming down, being loaded. Maybe wait for percentage of total of 10% of the slides. That way, during playback, no matter how small my viewlet is or big, if it's a small file, the preloader may just flash by. But if I have a bigger viewlet, it will display some kind of visual cue to the viewer, showing them something is happening with a progress bar that matches the skin while the viewlet is streaming down. And you have other options as well for animated extras and setting a frame rate. 30 frames per second usually works just fine. You also have options for applying a viewlet skin. This is where you can personalize your viewlet and have the options for the skin that goes around for playback. You notice we have a skin selected here. This is the preview panel showing you that. You can go through the list here and choose whatever skin you want. Depending upon the skin that you choose, you also will have additional options available. So that's determined by the skin selected. Let's go ahead and we'll just go back and keep this simple and choose the blue viewlet skin. Then finally we have the HTML frame. Now if you're a new viewlet author, don't let this scare you. Just go ahead and use the standard Q frame that's loaded. However, if you're an intermediate to advanced user, you might want to check out the HTML frame for additional customization options for your published files. Now, once you make all of your selections in this particular project properties window, go ahead and save them as the default properties. This will save it for this particular file as well as any new files you create, and you can come back and tweak them as needed. And then click OK. Finally, make sure to save your file. Then you're ready, once you set your project properties up and have saved your file, to preview it in a browser or go through the publishing wizard. And that's all there is to it. If you have any questions on this particular topic or any others while working with Qarbon products, please visit us online at qarbon.com. Happy viewletting!